If you've been keeping track up with Minecraft sets, then you know who this figure is. This is the Wandering Trader figure from set 21167, The Trading Post. And throwing him up next to his in-game counterpart, yeah, there's a bit of a problem here. You've probably heard people complain some of the parts about the figure, and I've actually one of the people who have actually defended this figure. And I said I wouldn't talk about it more in my review, which I do have, you can go check that out, but I felt like this deserved its own video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the problems with the figure, and which ones are the fault of LEGO, and which ones are out of their control. Starting with the ones that are out of their control. Before we begin this video, I want to mention a couple of problems that didn't really fit in. Now, number one is the color of the jacket. This is a problem that has been mentioned a lot, and the main reason I bring it up is because if I turn off my flash, it is the right shade of blue. Now, in the packaging, it made it look like it was a lot brighter, where if you actually have it in hand, it's actually the right amount of blue. The way people thought it was actually the color of Steve's shirt. Now, if you look at the packaging with that knowledge, it makes a lot more sense. It doesn't really make sense how people would think that. But here's a couple of things. One, the packaging, it still looks a lot more brighter than it actually is. And two, if you look at things like the back and the front, for some reason the lighting just made it look very, very bright. Now, I feel like this is more on things with like LEGO's like marketing or like their lighting. Like even when I use my flash to get a good view, it still looks very bright, more bright than it should be. And it mainly looks like that way when you put it under intense light. Now, I think that's mainly something you notice when you have it in, like, a large quantity like this, and it's only ever noticeable now. I'm throwing this in at the front because I know it's something that people will think about, but it's also something I wanted to throw in as, like, a front thing, as, like, not an actual problem, because it's something that's more to marketing. And in terms of the figure itself, not talking about the marketing, with the figure in hand that you have, it is not a problem. Other thing is some of the details on the face. Now, in the actual figure, in the little part in between the eyes wouldn't be gold, it would actually be flesh color, and there would be round top. The reason I'm defending that and saying it's not an actual problem is because LEGO Minecraft doesn't usually go for the most complex of details. It usually tends to keep it like a couple pixels down if you know what I'm talking about. Basically, my whole point is like that's just left out because it's not like something that would really be focused on in terms of simpling down the design. Now, if you have a problem with them simpling down the design, then that's valid, but it's something that LEGO Minecraft does a lot, so it's not really something that would really be a problem with this figure alone. So, more a problem with theme. I don't personally mind it, though it can be something that can be a problem some people might bring up. Starting out which are the ones which aren't LEGO's fault, I'm going to be talking about two. One of which is completely out of their control, and one of which that's kind of more of a transitioning point, because it's a little mix of their fault, but also the fault of the people complaining. Starting out with one of the biggest problems people have been mentioning, the face. Now, I made an entirely separate video about this, which still holds up, but I do want to correct some of the things, so you can go watch that if you want a better idea. But as a little bit of a sum up, basically my whole point is that with this head print, for some reason, LEGO's machine can only print in that little area, or more specifically, they can't print close to the nose. Now, someone did actually send me a video where it had a figure of a villager that had it right above the nose, which is accurate into the game, aside from the actual figures themselves, which had them a pixel apart. Now, I can only assume that was from the old Village set, which seemed before the 2020 wave, they seemed to have the noses a lot more downwards, but then for some reason in the 2020 wave decided to move it up, which is a little bit weird. But my main point is basically that they only can print in this one area. And my main reason I bring that up is because in the actual figure, there's should be printing on the side right there. Now, my main point is basically that I'm not sure how LEGO's machining in terms of printing and stuff works, but I think how it works is when they make the figure, they also make the printing thing, and when they made that back in 2016 for the Village set, they only ever made it so it would go in this area right there because they never anticipated they would have to print on the sides, because as of the time, the only things that used that head were the Villagers and the Evoker and Vindicator, which had no printing on the side, just on the face. Now, I'm pretty hope when we do get a future version of this, it'll be fixed and it'll have a new machine that can print in the proper areas. Keep in mind, I'm not totally sure how it works. Maybe it's a little bit differently, maybe it's a little bit more complicated, maybe it's less. This isn't a problem of being too difficult to print there. If you look at this Stormtrooper helmet, you can see that you can print these very interesting and complex to get crevices. So it's not a problem in terms of where they can print. More of a problem is just what they're using to print it, not so much the colors, but the machine itself. Here's the transitioning one I mentioned, and it has to do with the green, which this is the second most complained about thing. Now, it's a little mix of LEGO's fault because technically they are in the wrong, but what people are complaining about is actually to put it as nicely as possible, very idiotic. People's problems is that the figure has green when there's no green in the in-game model. But if I throw up the model, you can see there's green. But I feel like there's a reason that this is like a discrepancy. Like, basically what happened is because in the in-game model, it's not as shown and the green is a lot darker. So when people saw there was green, they were like, why is there green? But the green is very hard to notice. It's very hidden away. Now, not to say that it's not noticeable at all. If you look at from the right angle, you can notice there's very obviously green there. Now, I think people's problems is that the color with this green, which I think that's not like what people have a problem with, it's what's causing people to have a problem with the green. Even though it's green game, the green in this figure, if it can focus, is way too bright. Throwing up the in-game model again, you can see it's much more of like a very dark green. Now, not only did they not use the dark green, they didn't even use the regular green. They used a very bright green. Now, maybe this is supposed to, maybe it's a, like, the green's brightness is like exposed a lot more because of it being on a blue, but I'm pretty sure it's mainly just them choosing the wrong type of green. Now, one thing I will know is that none of these problems are because they didn't have information like with the Illager figures. This set is released in December 2020, basically 2021. The update came out in the middle of 2019, so they should have had like over a year to do this, so I don't understand why they would have gotten the wrong green. So yeah. First problem, the eyes. The in-game model has green eyes, similar to the villager figure. But the thing is, the figure of the Wandering Trader has blue eyes, which I don't get. Once again, this set was released in 2021, basically 2021. I'm just going to call it 2021, even though it's December, but it's basic. The update was released in mid-2019, so they should have had over a year to know this. And LEGO sets usually take about a year to make, so they had at least like over half a month to know the eyes are green. And even if it was early decisions, even the very early in-game designs, or the early designs for the Wandering Trader, had green eyes. So I don't get why they decided to make blue. It's just a blatant inaccuracy, and it doesn't really make sense. Next problem is probably something the third most complained thing, which is completely accurate. Now, if I were to throw up a villager figure, because a Wandering Trader is basically a villager with a new coat of paint, as you can see, the nose in the Wandering Trader is a lot brighter. It's actually the same tone as the hands. Now, the hands make sense. It's not the same as the nougat for the villagers, but it worked for a skin tone. My problem is that the nose on the Wandering Trader should be a lot darker and shouldn't be the exact same tone. And I don't get why they didn't do it. But, like, all the villagers have, like, different noses, so I don't get why they would do that. And once again, it's not like they didn't know. This update's been out for a year. So it's just super strange. And I don't really have any reasoning for it because there is no reason. It should be dark or tan. And as for the final inaccuracy, as you can see in the in-game model, he has more longer pants. Basically, unlike the villagers who just have robes, his robe goes over his pants and it goes a little bit into the robe. Now, on the figure, they do try and emulate that, but for some reason, they chose dark red on the pants. Now, it makes sense for the arms, because in the in-game model, he has dark red for the wrists. Though, for some reason, they decided to use that red for the pants, even though in the in-game model, he has brown pants. And my main problem isn't even the fact that the color is inaccurate, the fact that it's a completely different color from the legs. Now, whether you could say, oh, maybe the in-game model has red pants and it's brown pants and they can't tell, okay. But why didn't they keep it consistent? As you can see, those things are two different colors. And it's not that they didn't have the pants in dark red. I can probably name a figure. Like, there was probably like an Atlantis figure that had dark red short legs back in 2012. And even then, his pants in the game are brown. So I don't get why the top part is red. So we've analyzed the figure. Overall, I could name 5 things wrong with it. Out of those, 2 of them are out of LEGO's control, and 1 of them is still an inaccuracy on their part, and is mainly there because people are mainly mentioned it in that section because people are complaining about the wrong thing. So technically there's about 1.5 things wrong with it, with another 3.5. With the math being cranking in, that means that 70% of the figure's inaccuracies are all due to LEGO's part. So that leads us to the question, is this a bad figure? And as someone who has defended it, as someone who has done like, okay, so maybe that is a misunderstanding, there is green, no, there's probably a reason for that, wait until there's better images, this is not a great figure. It is good to have a Wandering Trader, but there is only maybe 1.5 inaccuracies here that could actually be excused. The other ones just make no sense. Now, once again, I do not know how LEGO's manufacturing and decision-making work. Maybe there are reasons for some of these. Things like the eye color makes literally no sense. But who knows? Maybe there's a reason some of these things. But as we're looking at it now, this figure is not a good figure in terms of accuracy. But let me know what you guys think. Do you disagree with me on whether I think that this figure overall is not that great, right? Or do you agree with me? And also, what are your thoughts on like the inaccuracies? Do you think I'm right in like my assumption that the nose printing thing is because of their manufacturing, which I'm pretty sure it is. But let me know what you think down in the comments. I really feel like people are treating the situation a little bit too black and white. Either that or just being completely wrong. Green shirt. But yeah. Anyway, guys, that's going to be this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about the set down in the comments, and the set itself, and the figure. So, this is really something I want to highlight in this discussion, because I really feel like people just treat this, like, as I said, a little bit too black and white. Either, if it's completely inaccurate, there's just something wrong, even though with, like, there could be reasons. Even though with this figure, it's pretty cut and dried, there are a lot of problems, and, well, I just knocked it over, but there are a lot of problems with it, and I don't really have an excuse for most of them. Like, only one of them I have an excuse for, so yeah. But, anyway, guys, that's going to wrap for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Twirl will be down in the description. I post me and stats and updates there, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.